So let's talk a little about you, and in particular, I'm curious about one thing. I know you grew up. Well, you were born in Dover, New Jersey.
Right.
You spent some time in Rome, New York.
Well, my family is all
Right.
from Rome, New York.
Right.
And my dad worked at Griffiths Air Force Base. They kind of moved his job to Picatinny Arsenal in New Jersey. So we lived in New Jersey long enough for the kids to be born.
Okay.
And then they moved us to Huntsville. So
Gotcha.
So I moved. I turned 5. In the hotel. Here waiting for us to be able to move into our house.
Oh, really?
In Huntsville. So, so no real tie to New Jersey. Family is all in
Sure.
upstate New York, Rome area.
Right.
But, we were just there long enough to be born in New Jersey. So
And he came down to the Arsenal.
came down to the Arsenal. It's been 1973, and it's a lot different than it was in 1973. My dad is a 100% Italian. He didn't speak any English until the first grade.
Yeah.
And so he gets to Alabama and, goes to the Piggly Wiggly and he says, where's the Italian sausage? And I look at him and I say,
What are you talking about?
We got Jimmy Dean hot and we got Jimmy Dean mild. Which one you want? So it was a little different town than it was then. But, but he loved it. Dad he worked for the government chemical engineer for close to 40 years, and just the technical aspects and challenges of what the community was doing, what he could do as an engineer here was really what kind of kept him here the whole time. And then just at that time, again, it's not the same community there was, but it's just a great place to raise a family, you know. So.
And he passed in 2020.
Yeah, he was right at the beginning of COVID. Yeah.
Okay.
So
did he die from COVID?
he did.
He did.
Yeah. Well, again, he died of COVID. He kind of thought, well, hey, this is going to take me out, and if I get it, and I'm probably going to get it.
Yeah.
But he's at that age, he was almost 90, and he had like the last 3 winters had kind of bouts with pneumonia and had been hospitalized, and he was in a nursing home, so he pretty much knew, hey, if this this thing gets here, I'll be out of here, But he said, it actually probably makes a better story than saying Dad died of pneumonia, So,
Yeah.
But he was. He was ready to go at that time. So
You had a good relationship with him?
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He was a lot older than me. He was well, of course, he was always older than me, but he was 36, I think, when he got married. So so he was one of the older dads at that time, especially. Today, people seem to have kids at all ages, but
Right.
But he was he had kids much later in life than most people at that time.
So, why did you go to Tulane in your first year of college?
It was one of those. I guess hey, it was a brand name, and I had 2 friends that I went to high school with that went to Tulane. They were close friends of mine. I got accepted. Dad was, of course, very. Dad was the first in his family to go to college. So he just pushed you because you have to go to college. You have to go to college, and he'd say, "I'll send you to the best school you can get in." So I got into Tulane, and I went. So and I was there for a year. It was a lot of money. I was on some financial aid. They upped my financial aid and scholarship for the second year, almost as much as they increased the tuition. So at the time, my sister was here at UAH, and she was going to UAH and studying political science, which is what I was studying. And I'd come home on breaks, and we're kind of doing all the same stuff, So I'm thinking, golly, is it really worth spending all that money, Because, my dad was, he was having to borrow and do things. So I thought, I'm not sure this is a great use. And then the other was, I kind of at that time had kind of decided I really wanted to kind of get involved in government, And at that time I was planning to go to law school.
Okay.
And so, even my professors at Tulane said, unless you're going to live here, especially being Louisiana and New Orleans, you probably want to go, study in the state to where you're going to feel like you're going to practice and want to do these things.
Right.
So it made sense for me to come back to Alabama, and UH at the time was here. My mother was working there. My sister kind of introduced me to some of the professors. There were a couple of great guys. So I just kind of decided I'll just go and do that. And really have never regretted it now. So
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting, what every year, I think of the NCAAs, not that this is your case, but if a team does really well, their enrollment goes up.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't matter who it is.
No question.
And now, of course, the Google searching is going to go up. Who is Florida Gulf Coast? I remember when they were in the tournament and did real well. Or George Mason, that was my alum.
Yeah.
They went to the Final Four one year. but just the impact of friends, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
and sometimes it's, hey, maybe I want to get away from the family. I want to get away from Alabama. My dad's going to support
and that was
me.
an element of it too. I mean,
Yeah.
again, like I said, when I graduated high school, everybody wanted to go. I mean, let's get out of here.
Sure.
You know, I mean, that kind of thing. The idea of going to UAH would be,
Yep.
was crazy. We don't want to stay here. And it wasn't anything bad about UAH. It was just it was here.
Yeah.
So. But again, I was looked at it, and I had good friends that did stay here, and some were at UAH, and some were just working. So again, it was okay, if I'm going to come back, this is where I want to end up. So why not just come all the way back rather than go to Tuscaloosa or something like that?
How is Metairie, Louisiana?
Well, it was in New Orleans.
That's in New Orleans? I thought Tulane was in Metairie.
No, they're in. Uptown New Orleans. I mean, you were a streetcar right away from the French Quarter. Yeah,
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, and it was an interesting place to live, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people I love New Orleans. It's a great place to visit, but I would not want to live there. So,
Right.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So,
I was just in St. Louis. I couldn't live there.
yeah. Yeah.
If I came out alive.
Yeah.
It was scary just going to get gas
Right.
somewhere,
Well, it was, Tulane was one of the, and this is kind of the way New Orleans is. It's just so, you walked off one side of campus and it was Audubon Park and one of the nicest areas and, most expensive homes in the state of Louisiana. And if you walked off the back of campus, and it wasn't a big campus, it was a very dangerous place,
Yeah.
So it was just one of those, you could just turn a corner and the nature of where you were changed very quickly.
Yeah.
And at that time, the quarter had not kind of developed as kind of commercialized as much as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, and I used to tell people too, it was, French Quarter was fun after a football game or when there was a big crowd. But man, you go down there on a Wednesday night or something, it was a spooky place,
Sure.
So.
And then what do you think caused you to have such interest in political science?
Well, again, I just early on started working in political campaigns. There was a friend of mine in high school. Her mother was a city council woman. She was running for mayor. And so I wasn't even able to drive yet. Somebody had to give me a ride over there, and I'd help make campaign signs. And at that time, you made campaign signs by painting on plywood, So so I was painting, campaign signs and such. So it's just something that always appealed to me, So as far as that kind of thing, politics and government, and so obviously that's why I kind of did the political science. So
you were campaigning for others, and then sometimes your own campaign. Did you run for office?
No, I never ran
You
for
never
office.
did?
Yeah, I ran for student government, but
Right.
at UAH. But no, I've never run for office and never really entertained the idea of running for office.
Yeah, I think were you like the treasurer at UAH and the SGA?
I was,
Yeah.
treasurer, and I think then maybe I did a stint as vice president. So yeah,
Did you enjoy it?
I did. Yeah, it was interesting. And it was a way to get involved and trying to help. We did some things I think that kind of helped start to build the university into a little bit more of a traditional university. Some of the first dorms and campus housing was built during that time. So
Yeah, and it's amazing to see how that's grown, right?
oh,
UAH.
absolutely, yeah. It's impressive. So
And now you got, is it Chuck Carr? Is he the president now?
Yes. Yeah.
He came up from Tuscaloosa.
fantastic guy.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I've seen good presidents and I've seen bad presidents. So
I bet.
It's been interesting over the years to get guys in and out. And again, you want to talk about watching how much of a difference leadership can make on something. Have a bad president of a university for a few years.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It can really, really set you back. And you can just, when you get somebody good and dynamic and energetic, you look up 5 years later and like, how in the world did we get all this done? So somebody like him is, really going to be a great thing for the university. So
It's amazing how much that's true in so many aspects, right? Just
Yeah.
the people at the top.
Absolutely,
Whatever,
yeah.
and
if you really think okay, elections don't matter and that kind of thing, they do. I mean, who's leading you and the tremendous impact that those people close to home have. A lot of people just don't vote in local elections, because they feel like it just doesn't affect them. Like even we hear that a lot, kind of Research Park. I don't care who the governor is. I want to know who's going to be in charge in Washington. I work for the Department of Defense. I need to know no, it's important who your governor is. It's more important actually who your mayor is, who your your county commission chairman is, because they're going to make most of the decisions that affect you day to day.
Yeah.